The whole process is a bigger endeavor than I thought it would be. I wasn't expecting my first few weeks of self-employment to be so front-loaded with so many business tasks, and there's been a lot of them. Hey YouTube, welcome to my crib. That's my crib. Okay, now welcome to my office. All right. Today I want to talk about the business side of indie game development. I just quit my job in order to make indie games, and now I need to figure out how to run a business because that's a strict requirement if you want to port to consoles. So let's get into it. Let me just see if I can get some better audio quality. Here we go. How's that? Let me know if that sounds better. So I want to talk about the business side of indie game development because when I quit my job and decided that I wanted to make video games, I thought that I would be, making video games. And I thought that I would launch my current project, Tanks But No Tanks, on Steam, and then I would port it to consoles. That sounded like a good deal to me. The problem is, if you want to port to consoles, you need a business entity. Let me back up because the whole process is a bigger endeavor than I thought it would be. I had to form an LLC, I had to create a logo, I had to create a website, I had to create a business email, I had to open up a business checkings bank account. All of these things have been taking up my time and taking me away from the actual programming and art of the game that I'm trying to make. So let me walk you through the steps that I had to take since quitting my job. So as you've probably seen in my previous video, I quit my job so that I can make my own video games. And I thought that that would mostly entail, programming, art, music, but I found myself with a lot of front-loaded work that I had to address. And so let me talk through the specifics of what those were in particular. The first one that was a big one is that I had to create a formal business entity. I opted to open up an LLC, which stands for Limited Liability Company. It's not that expensive to do. The paperwork's pretty straightforward, but there's more things that come along with that. But let me back up. Why do I need to do all of this business stuff? I have to do a lot of these business shenanigans because I want to port my games to consoles. If you want to go on Steam, you can just create a developer account, you can pay the $100 fee, and then you can put your game up there and everybody's happy. But if you want to port your game to Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo Switch, you have to form a business entity. And I wanted to make games for consoles. Let me explain the whole process of applying to console platforms as a developer or a publisher. One, you have to have a business entity. To go along with that, I wanted to give myself the best opportunity to succeed. So I also decided, I need a legit website. So I started building out a website that represented this new company that I formed. And it has a little about section. I put a bunch of screenshots and a trailer for the Tanks game that I'm making. I even put a jobs page on there to see if we're hiring. We're not hiring right now because it's me and I have no money. And I also needed the website because these console platforms require that you have a business email. I needed to form an LLC. I needed to make a website. And I needed to use the domain of my website for a business email. It was a lot of work to throw together a website, even a simple one. I had to pay extra to get a business email set up. But also, I wanted a logo to go with my website to make it more legit, because if it's just text, then it's not really that professional looking. So I spent some time trying to figure out how to make a logo that I liked. I settled on the name Set Sail Games because I really like the idea of somebody on the dock with their ship in port, and they get on the boat, and then they're on the open seas. We'll see if their ship is seaworthy. And that's kind of how I view myself, because I have no idea if my business ventures are going to be viable. I'm going to see how they fare in the open seas, and hopefully I don't sink. But subscribe if you want to see me sink. Okay, so I made a logo, set up a business email, and then I started actually doing the applications for these console platforms. So I looked into the processes for Nintendo and PlayStation and Xbox. It's a pretty involved process. For some of these companies, you not only need a business entity and a business email, you also need a static IP address to log into their developer portal. I have a background in web development, and I've worked with IP addresses, firewalls, load balancers, all of these things. So I feel like I should be familiar with, but I don't know how do you even get a static IP address? So I Googled it, and apparently some people can ask your internet service provider to give you one. What I ended up doing is paying for a VPN service that comes with a dedicated static IP. So I can log into my VPN and then use that. But anyway, it's like all of this stuff makes it complex to even apply to get onto consoles. And I haven't even started the actual process of porting my game to these platforms. All I'm trying to do is get accepted so that I can start porting my game to these platforms. So, broad strokes. I want my applications to these different console platforms to have the highest chance of success to get accepted, because some of them are not very competitive to get into. Some of them, like Nintendo, are very competitive and they don't accept a lot of people. So I wanted to boost my chances by looking as nice and professional as I could. I actually started with making my game look a little better. So I updated some of the UI, I updated some of the things that still looked a little white box or placeholdery. That's a word. And then I used new gameplay footage from my updated version of the game to put together a better gameplay trailer and better screenshots. One of the screenshots I actually just made in Photoshop because I didn't want to put it in the game yet. All is to say, it's been a lot of work to dress up my game and my business because I want it to look legit. So part of that is making like a pitch deck or a press kit, or I don't really know what to call it. It's kind of a mix between a pitch deck and a press kit and a game design document, but it kind of outlines what my game is all about, the features that it has, screenshots, why it's good for a particular console platform, a bio about me and my experience and some of the well-known games that I've worked on and things like that. So I made this really nice pitch document and I made sure to include it in my application for these consoles. And all of that has taken me weeks. Oh, I forgot about this other thing. Okay, one thing that I left out is when you open up an LLC, you need a business bank account because I think you get in trouble by the IRS or something if you don't have one. I don't know how it works, but it's good to keep it separate anyway, but I think you need it. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. I am not a lawyer. Don't take this as advice. This is just my experience. I'm probably an idiot. Don't do what I do. Okay. Yes, bank account. So I needed to open up a bank account. So I put on my big boy pants and I marched down to my local bank branch of a particular bank that I'm not going to include in this video. I went down to the bank and I made an appointment and I sat down with a banker and I said, help me to open up a business bank account. They did. I was like, great, here we go. Let's get the ball rolling. Well, I set up my bank account before I went to my buddy's wedding in Europe. We were out of town for a few weeks, and in that time, the bank sent me my debit card for this new bank account. And I had transferred some money over into it so that I could start paying for things that you need, like, oh my gosh, this video's all over the place, but I'm just now remembering all of the crap that I've had to do in the last few weeks. Health insurance. Turns out that's something that you need. Yep, I needed health insurance, and so that was another thing that I had to figure out, what are my options? How much does it cost? It costs a lot. But luckily, they have what they call a catastrophic health insurance plan. So like, if there's a catastrophe, I'm covered. If I want to go see a primary care physician, probably not going to do that. There's that. Okay, backing up. Again, I opened up this bank account. I seeded it with some money so that I could pay for some stuff like the health insurance and the website and all of this other expenses that goes along with starting a game studio. I'm in Europe with my wife and my buddies, and we're going to this nice wedding. I get an alert on my phone. It says, somebody tried using your card at an ATM. So I was like, oh no. Someone had gone into my mail and stolen my debit card, tried to take all my money. That was a little sad. Since then, I bought a mailbox that locks with a key. Had to go back down to the bank branch, tell them what happened, and then they canceled that card and then sent me a new one. And I got the locking mailbox in place the day that the debit card arrived, so totally safe. Where was I going with that? It's just a lot. So what I've found is that the business side of game development is a whole thing. It's a whole thing. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. I wasn't expecting my first few weeks of self-employment to be so front-loaded with so many business tasks. And there's been a lot of them. Luckily, I've been ripping through it. I've done it all now, I think. Well, knock on wood. And I've already sent in my applications for all 3 major consoles, Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation. So I'm just waiting to hear back on that. So it'd be really great if I could start porting my game over to those consoles. Sorry, this video is really rambly and ranty. There's just been a lot going on, and I want to keep these videos up to date with what my experience has been. And I know that registering for an LLC and making a website aren't necessarily the most entertaining things to hear about. So I just wanted to group all of this into one rambly video so that you can at least get an idea of what life is like for me right now. One of the things that came along with starting my self-employment journey is setting up a Discord and setting up a Patreon account. That's like a whole thing in itself too. With Discord, you have to come up with a little logo icon. You need to set up the individual channels and the rules and permissions. For Patreon, you need to figure out what your tier structure is going to be, pricing and perks and more Photoshop icon development for those individual tiers, updating with posts on the Patreon account. And then I wanted to link the two, so now whoever signs up for my Patreon account gets access to an exclusive patron only server on my Discord channel. So yeah, it's been a lot. I'm sure that I'm leaving out something. But yeah, I've been busy. I've actually made a ton of progress on my game as well. I've been doing a lot of business oriented stuff, but I've also been working on my game and it's coming along really well. I'm hoping to make more regular uploads that are more devlog type dealios where I can stay up to date with what I'm doing. But I feel like everything is moving so fast paced that I'm getting so much done that I felt like I just needed to make this quick video to give you an update of how things are looking, what my experience has been, just to give you a picture of what that looks like. So yeah, I started doing this thing called not a to-do list, but a to-done list. Basically, whenever I accomplish something, I put it on this list and then I can look back and be like, oh yeah, these are all of the things that I did today. Oh, update the Steam store. That was another thing. I had to update the Steam listing with the trailer and all of the new screenshots. Oh, I created a localization system in my game so that I can change languages, but that's not business related. I'm going to go now and edit this footage, and it's going to be a pain because it's been super rambly and I've been all over the place, and usually my videos have a script and they're more structured, but this is just kind of me vomiting to the camera about everything that I've been doing over the last few weeks. So I'm sure I'm forgetting something. I'm learning a lot as I go. I'm not a lawyer. Don't do what I do. I'm probably an idiot. Hopefully my game is coming to consoles. Hopefully my ship doesn't sink. Hopefully I don't go bankrupt. Please like and subscribe. And that's it. So I'll see you guys in the next one.